It kind of feels like they're pushing the boulder of their business up the hill and it's getting bigger and heavier. I would say know how you're wired.
Everyone else has said, holy crap, this is really cool. Nobody's bought. What's harder for you, being a COO or a CEO? The AI wants to skew you towards the mean, so it's going to possibly tell everyone the same thing. What's harder for you, being a COO or a CEO?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sean. I've worn both hats. I've been a COO for 15 years and a CEO for 2 years, and I've worked with both. I would say at the end of the day, I would say the CEO is the harder role, primarily because they're carrying the risk, right? It's their business, it's their company. At the end of the day, they're responsible for the growth, the scale, the vision. They own the P&L. The COO is a big contributor to the success of that. They're the ones that can execute on that vision of the CEO. But at the end of the day, it's their business, it's their responsibility. They take that ownership, they take that risk of trying to make that happen. So I would say if I had to choose one, it's probably harder to be a CEO than it is to be a COO, but they're both equally challenging in some respects.
So if that's the case, why do you persist in having your own business rather than just being someone else's COO?
For me, it's a great question. I could, and I've done that. I was the COO for over 10 years in my wife's business coaching company. That's how I got started. And then I did fractional COO work for a number of years for other companies. When you're a fractional COO, the work is rewarding, but can also be quite taxing because you're managing a lot, right? For one particular client, for one particular company, you're working with the founder, CEO. You're usually leading their leadership team, running meetings, running scorecards, holding team members accountable, hiring, firing. There's a lot, projects, etc. And then when you do that at scale for a couple different clients, if it's just yourself doing the COO work, it can be a lot on your brain, right? You can have lots of different meetings, lots of different Slack channels, lots of different project management tools, and sometimes hard to kind of pivot back and forth. And at the end of the day, you can feel kind of taxed, if you will. And so for me, I couldn't scale that when it was just on my own. And I knew I wanted to take what I had done individually for other companies and spread that to more companies that need that second in command support. So for me, I made the decision that the best way for me to provide that service and the model was to bring in other COOs that could help me do the work for those companies. So instead of working with 2 to 3 fractional COO clients, companies as their fractional COO, we have now 20 and 25, right? And I've got a team that can basically provide that service. So for me, it was basically leveraging what I had done, tapping into the market of fractional COOs that love to do that type of work, and then just building the framework for us to provide that at a bigger scale for more companies.
What is the right time for someone to consider bringing in a fractional if they can't afford someone full time?
Yeah, great question. In my experience, fractional can work all the way up to about 20 to 25 million in annual revenue. Anything above that range, in our experience, the idea of fractional starts to spread too thin. You really need a full-time operator at that scale of a company. You've got sizable operations, sizable team. The idea of fractional is just going to be tricky. At a starting point, I would say at least to be at a million or more, right? Low multiple seven figures. I know there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to break that seven-figure threshold, and we applaud them and celebrate them, but they often say, I want a COO, but in reality, you don't really need a COO. What you really need is just to do more of what you're already doing. Maybe you need a online business manager, or an ops assistant, or a project manager. But for companies that are at low multiple seven figures up to about 20 million, fractional works really, really well in terms of just the business size. In terms of when they may feel like the need is there, is usually when they've realized that when they've been trying to grow and scale and it's not been happening fast enough, right? It kind of feels like they're pushing the boulder of their business up the hill and it's getting bigger and heavier. And it just feels like there's more effort. The day-to-day feels more exhausting. The meetings feel more tiring. You're spending more time in the business as opposed to on the business, and not just looking at like on the business, but also you're spending not enough time focused on the future growth of the business, right? That's where visionaries, entrepreneurs, CEOs, they should be focusing on what's tomorrow, not so much on what's today. And I mean tomorrow, not just tomorrow, but next month, next quarter, next year. And they realize that they can't do that because they're so bogged down in the day-to-day. So when they realize that in order for them to grow and scale, it actually is a mindset shift to get them out of their own way and realize that if they bring somebody in, like a fractional COO, whose zone of genius is running other people's companies, where they're the bridge from the vision to execution, that's where I think they really become aware that that's a better model, a more sustainable model for the growing and scaling of their own business, is realizing that they're not supposed to do it on their own, and they're not supposed to be doing the things that they're probably doing that are taking the time, energy, and effort away from focusing on where they want to be.
I feel that pain now, and I don't have revenue yet for this new software company. I'm doing everything from product design, customer service, feedback, debugging, coding, outreach. I do all of it,
Mm.
and I constantly feel the pain of not being able to do enough. So, do you have any advice for someone like me that's just getting started in a particular project that they want to commercialize, where you know that you would benefit from help, but you can't justify the cost of that help? How can you handle it on your own? Because when I'm coding, I'm not doing outreach. When I'm doing outreach, I'm not fixing bugs. When I'm writing content, I'm not able to be on a podcast, right?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, I'll be honest, it doesn't have to be a COO, right? I think it just comes down to getting support in your business, delegating, outsourcing, systematizing the things that, yeah, you could be doing those things, but at the end of the day, should you be doing those things? And I'm using you, Sean, as an example because you asked the question, but I say that often to a lot of founders that, listen, in the beginning, they were the jack of all trades. They did everything, right? They swept the floor, they opened the door, they welcomed the clients, they did the sales, they did the marketing, they managed their calendar. And at some point they realized, well, maybe I should be bringing in an assistant, right? Or somebody like a VA that can take off some of the more mundane, routine, administrative tasks and activities. So you outsource that, you delegate that, right? We all know that if you're worth whatever you're worth by the hour in your own business for those activities that only you could and should be doing, and you can bring in support at a much affordable rate per hour to get those things off your plate. That's 101 of delegation, right? You're investing 2 to get back 10, as an example, right? And I think part of that is looking at those activities that you're doing, which are the ones that are absolutely necessary that only Sean should be doing. If it's coding, then code. If it's fixing bugs, then fix bugs. But if it's doing something else, it's awareness. If it's doing something else there where you're realizing there could be somebody that could do it for me better than me and more consistently for me, because maybe it's the activity that you don't enjoy doing. So you either procrastinate, you drag your feet, maybe you're not very good at it, but you get it done because you're the only one. You can bring somebody else in, train them, show them, give them a process of how to do what you do in the Sean way. And that starts to free some time up, even if it's just a couple hours a week. I think that's the starting point. It doesn't have to be full boat, I need a COO. I mean, even some companies at that level are like, I need a COO. Like, no, you don't. Actually, what you really need is somebody like an ops assistant. Get a VA. Get somebody to take 5-10 hours off your plate of the things that are draining your time, energy, and effort, where you're not the best one at it anyway. And then it frees up that time to invest in the things that only you should be doing, the things that light you up, that are really going to move the needle. So it's having that distinction and awareness, and I think just investing in, right, investing in team in the way where it's not an expense, it's an investment to get your own time back.
Yeah, I think the thing that would drive my business forward very quickly right now is to have someone that were to do the sales calls and close. Like if they were to do because like right now I'm doing founder led sales in the form of a demo. The
Mm-hmm.
goal being get them to create an account in front of me and have them go through the first time experience with it and end them with like, you're on a paid trial. And it doesn't always work like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so yeah, I wish I had someone that knew how to do all of that better than me, who's closed deals like that, because I haven't. I've just done a bunch of them, and I'm learning as I go, which is super important.
Yeah, I think if I could just add, I think that's a huge distinction. There are a lot of founders, especially when it comes to sales. I say it's this sales and the product. That's usually the rub. The product is that it's them, right? They've always been the product. They've always delivered the service. They've always had the relationship with the client. So for them to feel like they can step out in some way, it doesn't have to be black and white, all or nothing. It could be somebody else. Bring in a mini me. Bring in somebody that could do 80% and you bring in the 20%, right? It's kind of like the dentist visit. Like the dentist doesn't clean every patient's teeth. The hygienists do, and the dentist comes in for the 5 minutes, like, shake your hand, how you doing? Everything looks great, right? So there's that in the product. But on the sales side, there are a lot of founders that love sales. They love building relationships, creating that rapport, because they're selling the product, they're selling them, they're selling the service. And the founders that kind of feel trapped in both is where it's difficult to scale. So I think for you, if what you've shared is doesn't sound like you're jumping up and down to do sales calls all day and run demos, then great, get somebody else in who loves doing that. That's their strength, that's their zone of genius, that's their wheelhouse, and have you stay in the product box. And for other founders, it might be, I love doing sales, I love doing calls with prospective clients, I could do that all day long. Great, well then get somebody to cover the product box, right? So there's that distinction of being able to understand that if you're looking to grow and scale, you can't be in every box all the time. You can bring in people that can help you move that forward.
The the draw of AI is that you can do both at the same time. For example, I did a demo yesterday with a guy who he uses Zoom for his workflow. And he was said, "Look, I'm happy to try this if you implement Zoom." And I said, "Well, I'm actually testing it right now. It should be ready later today." He's like, "Great. Well, when it's ready, come back and talk to me." He had suggested this really cool idea where people could brief the AI by like just putting a file dump, just like some, few thousand characters about you and your business and who you're writing for, who's your audience, why, blah, blah. And at first I was like, "Oh, I don't really know." After the call, I thought about it and I said, actually, this is like literally a 5-minute implementation for me. It ended up being an hour because it took 5 minutes to code and then it took 55 minutes to like make sure the UI was perfect.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Because the AI doesn't code the UI very well. You have to fix. So being on the call, I got to see this person. I got to learn about something that I was missing that could be part of the learning loop that I've built into my system. If I had someone else doing that call, they wouldn't have had the authority to give me. They could just give me the sales call and I could watch it and then, oh, okay, we've learned something. But I didn't have the relationship with the person. And then there's a disconnect. And so, like, I like the call. I like the demo. I like getting the feedback. I like being able to then go and implement that immediately and say, hey, look, I implemented it. Let's start your trial now, which often doesn't happen. But like I'm learning and I like all of it, but I need it to translate into sales. And I feel like a self-serve software model is what everyone strives for.
Mm,
But I also feel like when you're pre-revenue, you have to do those sales, you have to do those demos, you have to learn from people so that you know what you're building and why. And so I'm struggling with the idea of like having someone do that for me when I know I can do all of it, but then I'm not doing the marketing, I'm not creating the content, I'm not putting myself out there as much as I need to. So,
yeah. Well, there's an important distinction with what you just said, which is it's important for you to do those calls to determine the what and the why. And I would add, most importantly, why they're buying, right? And that's market research. And I do think at a certain point, whether it's market research to understand who's your buyer, what are their objections, what are their challenges, what are their needs, what are their wants, what are all the triggers. I'm not just talking about sales from like a manipulation perspective, but to have honest conversations to be like, is this going to work? Is this something that people are going to buy? If not, why? And then you go back and take that market research to go and figure out how to make the product better, how to make it more compelling, how to get more people to be attracted to it, to buy it, et cetera. That's really important market research. But I think also part of that research is determining what in the sales process you like to do and what in the sales process you don't like to do, right? I'll give you an example with me. I do every sales conversation for potential clients with my company. In the beginning, I didn't think I liked it. I don't consider myself to be a sales guy. I actually really enjoy it now because I get to know the business owner and understand what is really going on. And I do firmly believe that we have a solution that helps. And if it works for them, great. And if it doesn't work, that's great. So I always go in with no attachment. But at the same time, I'm not doing all parts of the sales. I'm not doing outreach. I'm not doing qualification. I'm not doing scheduling. I have somebody in my team that does all of that. That's part of the heavy lifting. So when I speak to somebody, they're pre-qualified, self-selected, and already educated on who we are, what we do, and why they may need it. So it makes the sales process a little bit different, but that took some time to develop and understand where do I want to be and where do I not want to be, and then being able to determine where I need help in both of those different categories.
so I use Bordy AI for that. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
I swear these guys should be paying me. Like I talk about this thing all the time for free. But then again, I get to use it for free, so I'm really happy with that. And so Bordy's hooked into my WhatsApp and LinkedIn. So I can chat with it. I can do voice message, voice call, text message, whatever. And so I could say, "Hey, Bordy, I want you to find me a fractional CMO." And so Bordy will look for fractional CMOs in his network inside of LinkedIn, and he'll say, "Hey, here's like a sentence about this person. This is their company. Here's their LinkedIn URL. Here's what they're looking for, and here's a caveat. A reason why you may want to consider not reaching out to them." And if I say, "Yeah, let's go ahead, let's talk to this person," Bordy will create. He'll send a message to the person. If they agree to talk to me, he'll then create an email introducing us. I will then send a response with my demo link for them to book. So Bordy has helped me find the person that I perceive as an ICP. They self-select their interest in the software and then they book the demo. So Bordy is essentially scoring and qualifying and booking calls for me.
Perfect. That's great. That's amazing.
So Bordy booked me about 20 or 25 demos in the last few weeks. And one person didn't show.
Okay.
Everyone else has said, "Holy crap, this is really cool." Nobody's bought. So I'm working through where the problem is. I understand there's a habit problem, there's an activation problem, there's things to work through because the offer I think is good and the product is good. I just showed the product earlier today to a friend of mine I've known for 30 years. He's never seen me build any software. I mean, I had a tech company many years ago, but we didn't really talk about it too much. And I showed him this demo, and he was like, "I'm impressed by the quality of what you've built and the design. Like everything looks fascinating. Like all the thought you've put into it is amazing." He's like, "But," he's like, "you have a problem." He said, "Because it's not directly tying into revenue generation." He's like, "So you're creating something that can provide opportunities over the long term, but there's no urgency." And because there's no urgency, because every single person I get on a demo with, they all acknowledge instantly that they know they should be more visible on LinkedIn and they should be posting more often, but there's no sense of urgency to do so because they already have a profitable business.
Okay. I
So
see.
there's no urgency to get them to commit right now to adding something to their daily workflow to change their behavior. And so like I'm trying to work through that. And so I've thought of an automation to the system so that instead of them having to create the project from a recording that they've gotten from a call, it could discover that exists in their system and say send an email and say, "Hey, we discovered this transcript exists now. Do you want to turn that into a project?" So if you send an email once a day or twice a day suggesting a new project is created, you're starting to activate a behavior.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the crucial points for me to get people to stay, but I need people to want to do the trial and so I'm working through all that stuff now. And I think if I had another person that was doing it, they may not have the insights that I do to figure out where there's a problem. And like, go, "Hey man, I'm just not making sales. What's going on?" and get frustrated and leave. So I feel like I'm too early to have other people help me with some of that stuff, even though it'd be
I would
helpful.
agree to an extent. Yeah. I think it just, like you said, it's great market research. You need to hear, I don't call them objections, call them, blocks to buy, whatever you want. Sometimes it's like what it's not necessarily what they're saying. It's like it's the thing that's not being said, right? It's usually, lack of time, lack of money. Is this going to work for me? My situation's different, right? All the classic objections. That's really, really important knowledge to know. Urgency for sure. And I think for anybody, before you bring, this is what I'm still doing as well. Before I eventually I'll bring somebody else to help me do what I'm doing in terms of, bringing on new clients, because I can only, scale so much of my time. And as we're scaling, I'm going to need somebody else, but I'm doing all of that research to know, yeah, they'll be able to check the boxes to do sales, but I'm going to give them all of the feedback and all of the conversations and all of the analysis and all of the reviews. So they really understand our market, our service, how it works, why it works, et cetera, so that they can be more skilled, not just on the sales side, but also like the why, why these people are going to need what we're offering. So I think you're doing the same thing and it makes a lot of sense.
I'm also trying to think of like what are ways that I can use the data that I'm collecting. Maybe this sounds awful in 2026, but like people are sharing their transcripts. They're sharing their sales calls, they're sharing their keynote speeches, they're sharing things that they say behind closed doors.
Hmm.
Is there something that I could use that with? Because the data is not training any AI models. All of this is stored on my servers. And based on GDPR compliance, if they want to delete all that information, they have the right to do so.
Sure. Right.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to, I'm constantly thinking of how can I make this more sticky? How can I make this something that's bigger, right? How can I make this something that could be $100 million company if it was capable of doing that? Because there's a very different mindset of like, yeah, let's make, 10,000 a month with the software product, or like, let's be an 8-figure brand or a 9-figure brand. So it requires very different mindsets for how to do that. And so,
Yeah, and a lot of, I think, from what you've shared, like outside the box thinking, right? Instead of just like, oh, this is the lane of what we can do. Maybe there's lanes of what we can also do, right? Just a little bit more non-traditional thinking about what's going to be required.
I think one of the benefits of being really early in building a company is that there is nobody else to tell me I'm wrong, except for the customer. There is no team member saying, "Oh, that's going to take a year to implement." AI is like, "No, I got it done in like 5 seconds. What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
So, there's that ability to also go, "Oh, okay, so someone suggested this thing like, "Hey, Claude, what do you think about that?" Cuz Claude is helping me to build the software. So Claude can see every file in my software code. It can read everything from the repository. So there's no reason to not go, "Hey, Claude, I just had a demo and the person gave me 3 things of feedback. What do you think about that?" And Claude will be like, this one probably not. This one, like, yeah, we could do that very easily, So it's easy to be able to turn that feedback into something like that I could test literally, within an hour or less. And then go, actually, this doesn't work. Let's screw it. Let's just revert.
right. There's no capacity pushback when you're from what you shared as the example with Claude, right? Where if it's the team members, you come back and say, hey guys, I had this great demo and I got some amazing feedback from some new product features or enhancements that we want to implement. And if the team is like, oh, my plate's already full. I've got these other enhancements I'm already working on. I'm not sure I agree with this. I mean, that doesn't exist when you're doing what you're describing with Claude. There's always the ability to make it happen. They might give pushback on what could be nice, necessary, or neither, which is helpful, which is very strategic. But in terms of the path to execute and the capacity, yeah, there's no problem there.
Yeah, like for example, someone had suggested bulk upload of transcripts. And I'm like, yeah, that could be nice, but the whole point is like the voice profile learns from each transcript and it learns from your posts and it learns from your analytics. So if you dump like 100, calls, it's not going to get a chance to learn.
Yeah,
It's going to do all of them the same as if it's the first time because you're doing them at the same time. But if you do one today, one tomorrow, one the next day, it's getting a chance to learn from you. So like this is a feature that I reject. I just don't think it makes sense to do for the purpose of protecting the quality of the output.
sure. Yeah,
So yeah, I get to be able to say I like this, I don't like this because I'm also a user of the product that I'm building. So I can say, yeah, I can understand as a user how this could be valuable. Or as a founder, this doesn't make sense. So I get so because I know like a lot of people have a problem when they're first starting out where they're gonna want to try to serve everybody. And so they may try to develop everything and then they have this thing that actually doesn't make sense and it's too sprawling. And so I'm trying to look at it from the point of view of if I'm going to implement this, how does it either make it more sticky, make it more obvious to say yes to in the beginning, or make the learning loop more intelligent? And if it could do one of those 3 things, I'm interested in figuring out how to implement it.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, different business, but same idea. I mean, with the clients that we work with, I'm one of my own clients, meaning, we provide COO services to companies, and I have a COO that provides that service to me, and we're constantly refining how are we doing what we're doing here in my business so that we can cascade, as the user, cascade that to the clients and companies that we're working with so that they can kind of benefit from the same value or the same experience. So, yeah, putting yourself in your own buyer's shoes and going through the process, the journey, whether it's from pre-sale to onboarding to the delivery itself, and experiencing it from that perspective is really, again, great insight, great intellect to have.
How heavily do you use AI and do you require all of the fractional COOs that you employ on behalf of your clients to be involved with AI?
I use it heavily in my own business, quite a bit. Whether it's running dashboards or having agents do, day-to-day work, et cetera, research, we use it I say we, I use it, my team uses it a lot internally, right? In terms of whether it's marketing, operations, admin, et cetera. How we use it with our clients, is it a requirement for the COOs to kind of come in full guns blazing? This is all the things we're going to do with AI? No, it really depends on the need and the appetite of the client. And that varies. There are some that are in financial services or law firms are like, no, I stay away from it, right? Just because they're very, understandably so. There's regulatory concerns. They're not uploading, cases up into Claude and having it do analysis that way, or running, financial statements from their wealth management professionals into Gemini to do, analysis in that way. There are others that are very gung ho on AI, where they're really looking to leverage, regardless of the tool. But part of it, I explain it like this. I had this call the other day with a client because some of the clients that we work with, they're in these masterminds. They work with mentors that are talking about like, oh, you got to scale your business. You should 10x, and oftentimes they drink the Kool-Aid of like, okay, great, we're going to 10x, and I want to do that with AI. And I also like need somebody to execute on how to get to 10x. That's where we step in. We're like the who on how you should 10x, right? Because they get the idea of it, that's the vision, but then there's not a lot of execution. So we step in and actually make that happen. And oftentimes they'll come in and be like, oh, and I want to do more with AI. And this is what our experience has been, because the CEOs do use it when it's in that capacity. But we also ask the question, like, what's the use case? What is the problem you're actually trying to solve, rather than just kind of throwing AI into the mix and say, I want to use it because it's another bright, shiny object, or my mentor says everybody should be building agents with Claude and you got to be, using different tools in this way. Like, okay, we could, but is it something that we should be doing? And if we should be doing it, what is the use case? What is the problem? What is the issue? What is the solve that we're looking for to leverage AI? So we start with that rather than just kind of putting the cart before the horse. And that, in our experience, has worked well, because I think the founder can come in. It's like another big idea. They kind of throw it on the table, and the team is left to like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this new idea? The team's not going to know how to use some of these tools in a way that, they're being told to do it, because they're focused on their day-to-day already. So I think it's really getting clear on like, what's the requirement? What's the function? What's the purpose we're trying to solve? And then we can figure out what's the format of how we do that, right? Whether it's an agent, whether it's Claude, whether it's just using more AI in general to help with daily workflows, et cetera. So I don't know if that answers your question directly, but it depends. I think it depends on the clients. But for me personally, in my business, I do extend, I use it all the time.
Yeah, I think that's important. If you were to put someone like myself, which obviously I'm not a fractional COO and I don't want to be, but if you're to put someone like myself that's like, let's automate everything, let's go heavy on AI. If you drop me into a company that wasn't ready for that, then it wouldn't be a good fit and they wouldn't be happy, and then you would have a bad reputation because like these guys don't listen to me.
Yeah. I think I'll give you an example. I think one example that we are using more and more. So one of the things that we do pretty much within the first 30 to 60 days with every single client is, we do a deep dive, we assess. I always say, open the hood of the business, what's working, what's not. And oftentimes what's not there or not working is that they don't know their numbers. They're not tracking metrics. They're not looking at their KPIs on a consistent and frequent basis where there is ownership implied to those numbers. There may be a spreadsheet that lives over in the Google Drive that some team members update, when they get a chance to, but there's no ownership to that number that's being placed, whether it's number of leads, number of sales, KPIs for onboarding clients, whatever it is. And so what we're doing more and more is that we're developing some templates and some ideas of how to create kind of pre-built dashboards using Manus, and sourcing all the data from different places, whether it be from their CRM, from their project management tool, from Google Drive, et cetera. And then we're building the automation to build a weekly dashboard. But it just doesn't die on the vine. Like, part of that is then also initiating that in a weekly review, where for every number that's there is a person who is assigned to that number. Now, did they have to go and do the heavy lifting to find the number in the CRM, plug it into the sheet? No, that's been taken care of by AI. But they have to be prepared to report on that number every single week and answer this question, which is that number on track? If so, why? And how do we do more of getting it further on track? And if it's not on track, why? And how and when and what are we going to do to get it on track? And I use leads as an example because every business can't exist unless they're tracking leads. So if you're consistently looking at your lead flow and you're consistently off track, that is a problem. And somebody needs to own that and come up with a solution. AI did the heavy lifting to put the number on the table to have the conversation. but the conversation is the thing that's actually more important than the number. So that's something that we're doing more and more to do some of the more admin of the maintenance, the building, the collection of the data for a dashboard, but then making sure that the team is actually using it to report on it and have the issue conversation each week.
I think that's a really big problem. Having access to data doesn't mean so. Like I've heard of the term data-driven decision making. The biggest problem that most businesses have is that they don't have access to their data.
Yeah.
The second problem is then activation of that data. If they get access to it, they don't know what to do with it. Or if they get access to it, they don't know, they don't act on the data.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like the problem that I have is like an activation problem. It's like, okay, well, like I've built an admin dashboard for my software, and it pulls in sources from PostHog, right? So PostHog looks at the website, it looks at the application, it looks at both. It aggregates both. It has all of the endpoints from all of the features, so I can do cohort analyses. I can see how the users are using it. I can see if they submit bug reports or if they submit feedback or if they leave a review. Like I could see a whole bunch of different stuff. What I'm trying to do with it now is figure out how to make it so that I can act on this information. Because I can build a million trend graphs. I can see that there's more signups today than there was yesterday, but now it's dropping. Like I can see all of that, but like, what do you do with it? So I'm in the process of figuring out how to make the dashboard something that's more intelligent in a way that's actionable. So like, yeah, it's important to have the information, but then build it in a way that actually works for you.
And we're doing something I think it's something similar to what you're describing, which is like this it's blurring the line between like the intelligence and the judgment, right? So I think from what I've understood, I'm not the AI expert, you are, but in the way that we've been building it, like, okay, first it was like just to do the heavy lifting to get us the data, right? That part's done. That's the easy part. Then it's the conversation and like you said, kind of like the action that needs to take place. Now what we're trying to leverage more is infusing with AI their ability to make judgment, like intelligent judgment decisions, not the ultimate decision, but say, if lead flow is down again consistently this week, what are the options that we have on the table for us to consider in order to address the fact that lead gen is down, right? Because before it was like, crap, lead gen is down. What are we going to do? Well, we could do maybe this, we could do maybe that, etc. Now, the AI is coming and say, you could increase your ad budget. You could do more targeting. You can come up with a better lead gen. You could develop more partnership. It comes up with some suggestions, again, to get the conversation going, as opposed to sometimes I think it's like, it's last minute blank slate thinking, which is like, I'm just looking at the number. Our lead flow is supposed to be 10 a week and we had 5. I don't know what to do about that in the moment, but now we're coming in and say like, oh, lead flow is 5, it's supposed to be 10. Here are 3 suggestions that we can talk about to decide today what we're going to do going forward. So I think, again, it's adding a lot of value there.
I think the problem with that is the AI wants to skew you towards the mean. So it's going to possibly tell everyone the same thing. So what you need is to build into that something that says, based on what I know about your business and your current channels, this is the thing that I think you should do to increase your lead flow. Because if it gives me a suggestion to run ads and I'm like, I've never run an ad for this business, why would I start running an ad now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I think, of course, it's not, the intelligence is there, right? Knowing that it's not going to come to me and say like, oh, you should go to, more industry events in the US. I live in France. I'm not going to industry events in the US. That's not a marketing channel that I'm exploring. So it's going to leverage the marketing knowledge that it already has, not to kind of create more marketing ideas, or perhaps they are, right? There could be maybe ads is something to suggest, but if it's already an avenue you've explored and you've made the intelligent judgment decision to not do that for whatever reason, for now, it's going to have that awareness to not put a bunch of crappy ideas on the table that aren't really going to move the needle.
It may not, it would have to have access to the total sum knowledge of your company to know that you've already made that determination. Otherwise, it will continue to give you that bad advice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
And that's where it becomes important. So for example, I built a post analytics, because we're generating posts for LinkedIn. So I've created a post analytics dashboard for you to see on an individual post basis what your analytics are. So you could see what's performing and what's not. And then we're learning from that so that we can create new posts that are better than the last posts based on the model of the ones that get the best engagement on LinkedIn for you. While that's great, it needed a higher level aspect to the analytics dashboard that shows you your posts in aggregate in trend over time, and then what actions you can take based on that in order to justify retention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's what I'm talking about. Being, as you said, taking the data, making it visible, surfacing the right data, making it visible, and then learning from the results in order to suggest actions.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah.
What's the most important thing you've learned in your career so far?
I would say, gosh, that's a great question. I would say know how you're wired. I believe in taking a lot of assessments and understanding like what's your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and focusing more on your strengths and not trying to get good at your weaknesses. And I think also just having that awareness. It's kind of like we're just talking about. Having that awareness is one thing, but then staying in your zone of genius that thrives on your strengths and thrives on how you're wired to take action, how you're wired to process information, how you're wired to handle risk. Like in my career, I had moments where I've stepped out of that lane because I think I should be something that's different based on the fact that I'm this or the fact that I'm that. But when I've kind of honored myself to be in my lane and being, I know it sounds cheesy, but to be true to myself based on what I know about how I operate and what makes me tick, and living in that more and not trying to be other things that at the end of the day are not in my DNA as to who I am. I think that's been one of the most important insights and shifts in my own career that have allowed me to be in the position that I am today.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this insight, I've handpicked another video for you right here on the screen. For more actionable strategies that get you real results, hit subscribe.